Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Smith School of Business at Queen's University Full-time MBA webinar. For today, appreciate you registering and showing some interest in joining us for the January start date for our program. There are spaces still available if you are considering an MBA in 2026. We're delighted that you're using this tool as a way to inform you for this important decision that you're making in your life. Undertaking an MBA is probably the second largest investment that you'll make in your lifetime, second only to purchasing a home. Hopefully the next 45 minutes or so will give you plenty of information about that experience. I will be joined by a current full-time MBA student, future alumni, as well as one of our talented and supportive application advisors that can assist you with everything that you need to do within the next handful of weeks and months as we prepare for 2026. I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. Queen's University is situated on the territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples in the shadows of the National Day of Reconciliation. It is important for us to be thankful and humbled by our opportunity to live, play, work, and study on the lands here in the Kingston community. Queen's is also committed to an inclusive campus environment with accessible goods, services, and facilities that respect the dignity and independence of persons with disabilities. My name is Geoff Coons, and I'm the Associate Director of the Full-time MBA program here at Smith. There is my email address. If there are questions that are not answered, or if you think of something down the line, feel free to reach out. I really enjoy the work that I do, working with our applicants, students, and alumni through their arc of pre, during, and post-MBA life. And a very important member of the webinar group today is Lauren Singh. Lauren is a current full-time MBA student. There is her class cohort, the class of 2026. Some of you might be thinking, why is she the class of 2026? Because Lauren will do the program in 2025, cross the stage to get her degree in 2026. She's also shared her LinkedIn, so if you'd like to reach out to her and network through that space, feel free to do so. Lauren, feel free to come off mute and say hello to the listening audience.
Sure. Not sure if my internet is fantastic right now, but let me know if it's not. Hi everyone, welcome. Excited to be here and answer questions or share experiences about my time here in Kingston. So yeah, we'll get into it,
Lauren and I
Jeff.
love to chat, so we have a future as a morning show co-host, maybe in Kingston, maybe in Calgary. We'll see how this goes. But thank you so much for pausing your day, Lauren, to share some of your insights. And we've got lots of great content to share with our listening audience as well. Why don't we begin with rankings? Earlier this year, the full-time MBA at Smith did quite well in the prestigious Global Financial Times rankings of MBA programs. We were ranked one of the top 100 programs in the world. We were also ranked #1 in Canada in several key categories. Certainly career services, as we think about the competitive environment in which everyone lives and works these days, having #1 Career Advancement Center services is critical. We've been #1 for the last 6 years in Canada through this ranking, so hopefully that's reassuring. #1 for Alumni Network. We have tremendous alumni supports across Canada and growing around the world that love to keep their thumb on the pulse of what's happening in full-time MBA content here in Kingston. Many of our students rave about the supports that they get, live, in-person, or virtual sessions, coffee chats, webinar engagement like this. Diving a little bit deeper, the return on investment is key. We are less expensive than some of the other full-time MBA choices in the Canadian market. Maximizing that ROI should be critical, and certainly the salary increase, which is the salary that you enter the program with, and the difference between the post-MBA salary, again, #1 in Canada. And this is a great time to bring Lauren into the dialogue. When you think about, a little over a year ago when you were thinking about doing an MBA, how much weight did you put on rankings, specifically the Financial Times ranking? Did it factor in at all? Did it give you any reassurances? What do you think about that topic specifically?
Good question. I come from a healthcare background, so I was a physiotherapist for a number of years and then upwardly mobilized within the organization out west. So I can't say that I was like a frequent reader of the Financial Times. Um, but choosing to come to Smith has been on my radar for like a number of years, and was delayed because of the pandemic, being on a front line. But it never really wavered. So I looked at Smith in 2019, probably 2020, and continued to look at it until it made sense for me to be able to leave kind of serving in a public health setting. And it never really, it always maintained its brand. It always maintained, ranking relative to the other schools that you might be considering. And so when I relocated from being out west, I wanted to make sure I was relocating for a school that I was going to get ROI, I was going to get a great alumni network, I was going to get great faculty, and I was going to get great support from an administrative perspective as well. So those things never really changed over the last 5 years that I monitored the program and then ultimately decided to come. So yeah, I was not going to move across the country for something that wasn't ranked highly. So yeah, I guess it
You
played a
did
role.
you did your homework, and certainly it sounds like it was reassuring at arm's length. So thanks for adding to that. And hopefully those of you listening in are making similar informed choices when you look at the landscape in front of you. Here we are in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And to be clear, this is a full-time experience, boots on the ground here on our university campus at Queen's University. There's a photo in the top left-hand corner of the main intersection of University and Union Streets in downtown Kingston. To the center is a picture of Kingston City Hall, a place I know well earlier in my career where I worked in municipal politics. I can say, having worked at the city and worked at Queens, that no two cities are closely more aligned to one another. When you think of Queens, you think of Kingston and vice versa. As the slide says, dynamic small city with great amenities, resources, events, and attractions. It's a very safe community. You can walk around freely or take free access to Kingston Transit at any hour. There's lots of great cultural activities, restaurants, bars, sporting events. We are right on the shores of three major waterways, the Cataraqui River, the St. Lawrence River, and Lake Ontario. Maybe not so much on a gray November day, but on a beautiful sunny summer day, you can take your laptop down to a picnic table on the waterfront, which is about a 5-minute walk from Goods Hall, and enjoy the walking trails. Most of our students live within a 10-15 minute walk of the campus and the Goods Hall environment. There's a photo of me in the bottom left-hand corner with some graduates on their graduation day when they were celebrating. Queen's University is very much a part of the Kingston campus life and the greater community. And Lauren, back to you. Calgary is home for you. I know you were a proud Calgarian. You and I were out there last month for one of our treks. But you've been in Kingston for the year on campus. Tell the audience a bit about what they might expect from a student perspective.
Okay, good question. And I thought about this. Um, Kingston, I guess I'll tackle it in maybe like three parts. Kingston in itself is very ideally located in Ontario. It's about equidistant to Ottawa and Toronto, and then also like a very short jaunt to Montreal with frequent methodologies for transport. So in terms of like being in an ideal setting to be able to travel in Canada and Eastern Canada and Northeastern US, it's actually really ideally situated. So from that perspective, Kingston is a great place to be. From a student perspective and living within Kingston, it's like Geoff said, like a very university town. And so as a byproduct of that, we all live like very close to campus, which means we can walk wherever we need to go to. I mean, I have a car here because I'm from Western Canada, but I would still walk basically everywhere. If you're meeting up together after campus, on campus, it's very accessible for everybody to get to whatever destination you're planning to go to. So it enables people to have those close connections because you're not spread out so far. Um, And then maybe the third component is like most people that come to the MBA program or in the cohort are not from Kingston. Like I think only 3 or 4 people actually like live in Kingston and have come from away. So because of that, it creates like this little enclave or a bubble that you get to live in. And so you really rely on your cohort to be a community, and that helps like really build your bonds even tighter, and it helps strengthen that network that you're ultimately going to have when you leave the program. Because obviously I have a life outside of Kingston and I have a life out west with family and so on and so forth. But here I'm quite isolated. And so having close proximity, ease of access to my cohort has made this year just like very beautiful. So it's ideally situated, everything's walkable, and it engenders a sense of community amongst your peers. So.
Thanks for that perspective. And there is the Queen's University campus, a bird's eye view. The yellow arrow on middle left of the slide is the location of Goods Hall on the Queen's University campus. Lots of things to see and do, functional buildings, the library and the International Center and the Arts and Recreation Center, sorry, Athletic and Recreation Center are just a block away. Good news for you, though, on those cold winter days when you might be studying, all of your academic content, your classrooms, your team rooms are located inside Goods Hall. So you don't have to uh, run between buildings out in the snow when you're looking to switch classes or breaks between academic content. We keep that all in-house. Goods Hall very much becomes your home away from home. But in the nicer weather, you can certainly spread your wings and find all kinds of great traditional university content all over the Queen's University campus. So we use a modern methodology here at Smith. I get a question a lot is what is the pedagogy or how are course content delivered, where we bring technical expertise and interpersonal skills together. And we do so in this format. We have a lecture theater, which has 80 seats in it. So just adjacent to my office here at Goods Hall for traditional class instruction and discussion with a faculty member at the front of the room. Question I often get are, do you use cases in MBA content? We certainly do. Traditional published cases or living cases that are used throughout academic course deliverables. There are simulations where you can actually try out some of the things that you're learning in class. Real world business projects, both team-based and individual-based projects where you can apply what you're learning back to something real within the structure of the industry that you might be projected towards post-MBA experiences. And finally, experiential learning, learning by doing, going on things like case competitions or on exchange. We have over 30 exchange partners in global destinations around the world where you can have your elective content studied elsewhere in the world if you wish, completely optional, but it's tremendous customized experience that you can make your MBA experience unique. In Lauren's preamble, when she was talking about some of the reasons she was selecting the Smith program, she talked about faculty and the academic experiences. How have you found Smith's balance of in-class sessions, experiential learning, and projects? Talk a bit about your personal experience, Lauren, with just a few weeks left on your MBA year. You've got a pretty good scan of those experiences now.
Yeah, I'm feeling so sad that it's almost over. There's more on offer than you can possibly consume. I'll just start with that. And so the in-class content is developed and delivered by faculty who are fairly exceptional and really well connected. And they're usually like a very good conduit to being able to help you navigate what post-MBA life looks like because they've taught many of you before and they're very well connected in the industry. I really enjoyed the classroom setting, and what I find, and maybe this is a little bit of a digression, but what I find is in the front half of the program where you're at school like a full-time job, because it is more than a full-time job, it really simulates what full-time intensive work looks like, which I think is a very good training ground for where most of us will end up post-MBA. So from that perspective, I appreciated the rigor and the expectations of professionalism in the classroom. And I took that really seriously. So in class sessions, great. Be present, be connected to your faculty. In terms of experiential learning, there's of course, Geoff mentioned like case competitions, but there's also like club activities that help with experiential learning. So there might be internal case competitions or development of other peers, and that can be a phenomenal like opportunity. You can't possibly do it all. So being connected to your peers and being involved in clubs just gives you an opportunity to learn from others, learn about industries you don't know about, and then help normalize receiving and giving feedback and really elevating the people in the classroom around you because you have that opportunity to do it. And I'm going on exchange coming up here in January, above and beyond my degree. And so I'll be heading to Singapore in January. And that was a huge draw for me to come to the program, is having the opportunity to go on a full term abroad, at a really reputable university. So, like they said, there's more than you can possibly consume. So whatever you want to make your MBA journey, like I have, like you can you can treat it like a buffet. School is obviously mandatory, class is mandatory, but all of those other additional pieces, like it's what you make it, and there's more than you can possibly take in 1 year.
Go to class, I heard Lauren say there quickly. That's an important variable. And I must compliment Lauren publicly. She always brought tremendous engagement, professionalism, energy, usually sat near the front of the room, was never afraid to put her hand up and have her voice heard. This is a general encouragement to you, future students. Get involved in classroom activity, get involved in discussions in the team room, even social discussions about specific topics. It's amazing what you learn when you communicate and share in those formats. And Lauren was a master at it, and we're delighted to have her contribute. I see you're coming off mute. Go
I
for it.
am. I will just say that there's this old adage out west, called like "learn to do by doing." It's the 4-H motto, and
Mhm.
so learn to do by doing, and that's experiential learning. So unless some people want to like get it right or be perfect before they put their hand up or hope that what they have is like perfect to say, but you're not there to like be right. You're there to get it right. So just really immersing yourself in a really safe environment is the best way to learn how to elevate your own presence and come away from this very transformed. So,
Super. That was a great line. I'm going to use that next year. And there is a group of people that Lauren knows well. So something closely associated with the full-time MBA is the team-based learning approach, the power of teams. I do a lot of interviews. Usually one of the first things out of an applicant's mouth would be, I selected Smith because of the team-based learning approach. As the slide indicates, it mirrors today's progressive workplace. It's required to excel in organizations across multiple industries, and it certainly helps develop those skills that are applicable to whatever industry, whatever company, whatever you choose to do with yourself beyond the MBA experience. And there's Lauren in the front row. This is her team for the core, the first 6 months of the MBA experience. As you can see from their faces, very diverse teams, culturally, academically, professionally, across gender lines. The person opposite you in the team room is nothing like you in a lot of different ways. And we do that deliberately so that you learn from each other, support each other through the highs and some lows of the MBA experience, highly collaborative, and hopefully building relationships for life well beyond the program experience. Lauren and I've had many conversations about team life during 2025, and this is a great time for her to share her perspective. What advice would you give to an incoming MBA team to help ensure success? Um, that's maybe a broad question, but any tips and tricks that you might give to a future teammate listening online?
yeah. Yeah, I chose the program because the team-based piece. And I'm really lucky because I came from an environment of working in high performing teams and leading high performing teams. And so I've seen the power of teams at work and the amazing work that you can get done. And I firmly believe that what is the phrase, Geoff? Like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Mhm.
So you have the cognitive processing power of 6 to 7 people with a diverse background, which means you also have the unique perspectives and preferences of 6 to 7 unique backgrounds. The piece I would probably give as a piece of advice is check your ego at the door. Everybody here is smart. Everybody here is capable. Um, but everybody here works differently. And so being able to level set, create norms, adhere to norms, and respect one another is paramount. And it's not just paramount here, it's paramount out in the real world as well. Um, because you are what we call like ride or dies, like they are your team for 6 months. Whether or not you get along, whether or not you are best friends, it doesn't matter, and that simulates life. You don't get to pick your coworkers. And so having mechanisms, and you have a team coach, so having mechanisms to be able to elevate your performance every time you get something back is a phenomenal learning opportunity. And sometimes when you're in it, it doesn't feel like a phenomenal learning opportunity. But on the other side of it, it will be a skill that you harness here and use when you leave. So I personally had a good time in my team. I got to learn about how to work with different types of people with different types of background. Everybody had different skill sets that they brought to the table, and you have to pull together and move forward. And that's a resiliency piece that I think is transferable to any environment. So, big fan of this component. There's always going to be something to learn from it. Oh,
I
and
really
hold
want to
on.
we
Let
No,
me
go
just
ahead.
add on, Geoff.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No,
Is
no.
like some people feel like the leadership component and the soft skills are like neither here nor there. Like they don't need them, and they're more focused on like really hard skills and being really proficient in Excel and being able to, you know, do hard analytic tasks. But the reality is, like, even in the last year, the way that AI has impacted the way we learn and the way that we work is this component of understanding how to work with other people, drive other people, motivate other people, pull them out when they're in a hole. Those things can never be done by AI. Those things will be even more important going forward. So it's a phenomenal learning opportunity to learn how to work with other people, which doesn't change across time. Geoff, your computer displays are up. Oh, I think I know what's happened. He's received a Teams call and then it changes like where the
Hello,
audio comes out of. Yeah. Hi, Geoff. Welcome back.
can you hear me okay?
Beautiful.
Sorry, I've lost my ability to hear you for some reason. Somebody tried to call me in the middle of this webinar and my speaker fell apart. So apologies to our listening audience. I'm glad you can hear me, and I'm sorry I can't hear you just for the moment, but I will attempt to fix that. So bear with me as I fumble around here, as well as continue to deliver this content. If this is the worst thing that happens to me today, I'll count myself lucky, as my father would say. Um, so thank you, Lauren, for that insight. We're going to move to the next slide deck. Student experience, student things that you can do beyond the MBA classroom. This is critical for all that you take away from the MBA experience. You're going to learn those business fundamentals, your economics, your finance, your accounting, your strategy. Every MBA program delivers that. Um, but as you can see from the slide deck here, lots more that you can do beyond that. Student government, clubs and events that Lauren spoke about earlier, case competitions. Of course, we all want to get a great job post-MBA, working with the Career Advancement Center on that career search and networking skills that you're trying to enhance. There are industry-specific training in consulting and finance and tech, product management, lots of great webinars and workshops that you can attend. Fit to Lead is something that's certainly unique to the full-time MBA experience when you can put on some shorts and some running shoes and do a little bit of athletic activity away from the class, both as an individual or in teams. Lots of activity on the field opposite Smith at Tyndall, where you can play soccer, you can play tennis, you can have gym sports, you can have water sports, intramurals, lots of great activity that you can do. Completely optional, but a great way for you to maximize your experience as well within the structure of an MBA in the evenings and the weekends. And finally, community engagement. Smith full-time MBA students are very much a part of the Kingston community. So there are opportunities for you to volunteer your services informally and formally as a part of your year on campus. And as you can see, there is the class of 2026, the full cohort, people that Lauren knows quite well. Back to you, Lauren. Tell the audience a bit about a memorable experience beyond the MBA classroom. What stands out and why?
Yeah. Oh, it's probably what makes this like so sad about leaving Kingston. Um, the people in the cohort are great. And because there's only 77 or 80 people, you get to know them really, really well. So by the time that summer comes, you have ample opportunity to be able to spend time with them. Now, on the map that Geoff showed you at the beginning of this, you could see that it intersected on a number of waterways. I think that a highly under-leveraged asset that the business school has is the fact that Lake Ontario is so, so close to the business school. My most memorable experience this summer is probably, or this whole year, is being able to walk like 10 minutes down the road into a beautiful lake and be able to swim in Lake Ontario, which is pristine and clean, and be there with all your friends after class, between classes. It's not very busy because all of the undergrads are gone during the summertime, and that's probably my favorite memory to date. It's just going to the lake with my friends that's literally steps from campus, and that it can't be beat. It can't be beat. And in Canada, in the summer, our days get very, very long. And so the amount of time you can spend there is so, so long. Anyways, that's probably the piece that stays with me the most. And there's formal activities where you go to the pier and you swim or you jump off the pier. So if you're not proficient in water and you're planning on coming to Kingston, would recommend adult swimming lessons in the early part of the year so you're ready to go by the time summer comes.
Yeah, you definitely maximized your year. I can validate that for sure. But balance is key, right? So time management. There's a lot on the go with all of those categories, mandatory and optional. What's your secret? What's your secret for time management, balance, and fitting it all in? You did it better than just about anyone I've known in recent past.
Uh, Thanks, Jeff. That's such a compliment. Time management was one of my goals. It's really like not rocket science. You don't really need like an AI tool for it or anything. It's not about a big schedule. It's really about sticking to the basics. Um, I, you go to it's the whole first 6 months are like very, very intense. And they'll make or break you. And so for me, it was knowing myself. And it's gonna sound so silly, but how did I do it? I went to sleep. And I ate like routinely. So I slept on a regular routine, and I slept for probably 7 to 8 hours every night through core. I packed my lunch and made dinner every day so that I knew I could predictably eat. I wasn't like hungry at 2:30 in the afternoon, wondering where I was going to eat. Um, so really, I just slept and I ate. And if you have those pillars, no, I'm serious. If you have those pillars, they stand up the pyramid of what you need at the top. So think about like your life as a triangle. You need the base, you need food and sleep, and then in the middle you need a sense of belonging, and you get that from your peers if you're willing to seek it out and build those relationships. And those pieces of your pyramid help you build the top, and the top is your ability to think creatively and have good judgment and critically assess problems. And so without that base, you can't get to the top. So um, I, I mean, I know myself fairly well, and I knew that those things were going to be paramount. And when you're arriving here in winter, you need to have a mechanism to be able to care for yourself. And so sleep and feeding myself and building relationships was like chief among my techniques for maintaining balance and time management. And it made sure that I was able to perform not just when the things were due, but every day.
You came to the program with a plan and you executed it great. And sometimes it's just as simple as that, scheduling time for proper sleep, proper nutrition, proper preparation. It's not brain surgery, folks, but Lauren, thanks for that great advice. That's certainly helpful. Let's move on to the next slide, which is the ideal candidate. How do we assess you for this program ahead? The four buckets, as it were. Let's start the top left-hand corner, intellectual horsepower. You've got to be smart to be able to do this program. We look at your undergraduate GPA. Maybe you've got a first master's. Maybe you've got a GMAT or GRE in your profile. Maybe you've run some student awards or earned some accreditations along the way. Pretty standard. Moving clockwise, work ethic and resiliency. We do look at your resume, update that, and send that to your application advisor so we can see a little bit about the career trajectory that you've had as a young professional. Maybe you've been promoted along the way. We certainly take a look at your client-facing skills and some of the references that you've submitted for your boss and other colleagues that you've worked with as a professional, assessing that meat on the bone in the professional environment that is so critical to the work experience that's relevant to post-MBA life. Coachability and team experience. So why team? Because we're a team-based MBA. So if you like working in a collaborative environment, things like sports, music, theater, community service, volunteer work, largely collaborative activities, you're going to probably see a straight line to a fit for you in this program. But if you're more of a lone wolf, somebody that likes to work remotely or independently, you might need to push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit for that. Coachability, plenty of different coaches, informal and formal during the MBA experience, your team coach, your career coach, you have instructors through Fit to Lead. Your faculty are very supportive. Your alumni and staff are also informally great sounding boards and coach outlets that you can plug into throughout the year. Again, if you like that process of self-development, if you like becoming a better version of yourself 12 months later, lots of different ways for you to plug into that. Finally, my favorite, maybe Lauren's favorite as well, emotional intelligence, so-called soft skills. Sorry, folks. I don't know why the Wi-Fi is jumping around here suddenly at Goods Hall, but hopefully you can still see and hear me. I think the Wi-Fi cut out just seconds before I was talking about the fourth bucket, emotional intelligence and interpersonal skills. I must be good at interpersonal skills because if I wasn't, I'd be throwing a fit right now because the Wi-Fi is not working. But we'll we'll proceed. This is difficult to measure, but you certainly know it when you see it. The ability to work with others, the ability to work within the structure of ambiguity, a multicultural environment, the ability to enter a room with grace and confidence and professionalism, to present on 2 feet in front of a small or large audience, appropriate sense of humor in the workplace, one that I'm still working on. For all these pieces that come together, if you can show strength and competence in these areas, you're going to get into the program, you're going to do well in the program, and you're going to get a great job after the program because this is what global employers are looking for in post-MBA hires. And we feel that we get this more right than wrong with regard to the people around you in the full-time MBA program. Talked a little bit about return on investment. It is a competitive post-MBA landscape. This is based on the class of 2024. The class of 2025's employment report is going to be published within the next couple of weeks. So this is the most up-to-date information that we have. Again, still #1 in Canada in a lot of great areas.
Jeff, just to interrupt for a sec, your screen isn't showing anymore, so try and share again, I think. It must have taken
Okay.
you off. There we
Thank you
go.
very much, Terry Lynn. And again, I apologize to those that are listening in. The Wi-Fi tended to scramble the Zoom content. There's the ROI slide. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to drop it into the chat or to reach out to me after the session. Where do our alumni end up? So that green box there in Calgary, that's where Lauren's going. She's going back to Calgary post MBA. Of course, the majority of our students prefer to live and work in the GTA, the Greater Toronto area, the hub for commerce in Canada. It's a great location for a lot of major industries. However, if you are someone that prefers to live on the West Coast, on the East Coast, the Capital Region, or Montreal, lots of opportunities, and you can work with your Career Advancement Center coach on that outcome. If you prefer to live elsewhere in the world, again, you're not prohibited from doing that, obviously. Your coach at the Career Advancement Center becomes your best friend as to reaching that goal. There are our fees for the upcoming year, domestic, international. They are all inclusive, whereby all of your fees are included in that piece. You don't have to wait in line for your books at a bookstore. They're all delivered right to your team rooms. All your case studies, all your learning materials, all your access to all the MBA resources and coaching. If you go on case competitions during the program, your registration, travel, and accommodation are included in that. And of course, we go to Toronto quite a bit for our trips and treks, and transportation is provided as a part of that. And again, we are one of the few MBA programs out there that do not have an application fee. So nice to know that we don't take a dollar from you until you enroll in the program and get started. Cost of living in Kingston, again, this is on average. Everyone has their own budgets, their own tastes. This comes from direct feedback from recent alumni who did live in Kingston for the year. Some people prefer to live on their own. Some people prefer to live with a roommate. Some people prefer to live in a small group. It all depends on what you want to achieve. But again, the additional costs above and beyond would be approximately this amount that you could anticipate spending beyond being a student in the program next year. Now, this is a good time for me to let Terry Lynn, who is my second set of eyes, thank you for being my Zoom patrol there, Terry Lynn, and for acknowledging that my screen wasn't sharing for a moment. Terry Lynn's one of our great application advisors, along with our colleague Beth, and she's going to walk you through the next steps for application and admissions.
Awesome. Thanks, Geoff. And it's nice to see you, Lauren. So do you meet requirements for the program? In addition to what Geoff was mentioning, what the admissions committee is looking for with regards to your emotional intelligence, your interpersonal skills, coachability, all of those things, there are some baseline requirements that you do need to be eligible for the program. With regards to academics, typically we're looking for a B+ or better in the last 2 years of your undergraduate degree, and you do need a bachelor's degree. We do sometimes get the question, is your 3-year bachelor's degree accepted? And certainly it is. As long as it's equivalent to a Canadian bachelor's degree, that works. Work experience, most of our candidates have at least 2 years of postgraduate work experience. The average is about 3 to 5 years, and the range is kind of the 2 to 9 year mark. There have been exceptional cases where candidates have strong internships or co-ops and are able to be considered with slightly less than that 2 year of postgraduate work experience mark, but to get the most from the program, we're looking for candidates who have that 2 years of work experience. GMAT minimum, we're looking for 565 on the Focus Edition, which was equivalent to about a 600 in the original, or a 315 or better on the GRE. GMATs can be waived. It's done on a case-by-case basis. My best advice to you is to reach out to an application advisor. We can give you a little bit of feedback based on your academics, and if that's something that the admissions committee would want to see from you. And then if you did your degree in an institution that did not teach the language in English, you would need to submit a TOEFL English language proficiency test. So TOEFL or an IELTS, and the scores are listed there. Our role as application advisors, and sorry, Geoff, just go back for 1 second, but a role as application advisors, you're going to work with an application advisor throughout the application process. So you can start with a preliminary preliminary assessment, whereby you submit your transcripts, an application form, and a resume. And myself or Beth will have a review of those and determine if you're eligible for the program or if there's something that you can do to help strengthen your application, whether it be for the next intake or a future one. We also will work with you throughout the application process. So guide you step by step, answer any questions you have along the way. And ultimately, we're there to help you submit a strong application and be your advocate with our admissions committee. So we're here to support you throughout, and you send everything directly to us via email. No, you can change, Geoff. Sorry, thanks. Once you pass that preliminary assessment, if we've determined you're eligible for the program, like I said, you'll work with either myself or Beth to build your application file. And that's where we're looking for a resume, highlighting those things that Geoff mentioned, bringing forth to your resume, your coachability, your interpersonal skills, your academic strength, your professional experience. It's all of that. Unofficial transcripts. If you did get an offer of admission, we need official documents, but for now, unofficial transcripts are fine to build the application file. Cover letter outlining why an MBA, why the Smith MBA is a good fit for you and what your career goals are. Like I said, Beth and I are here to help you submit a strong application. So if you want feedback on your cover letter, we're certainly happy to review and provide feedback to help you strengthen it prior to submitting it to the admissions committee. We're also looking for 2 professional references. Ideally, these are from people who have managed or supervised you in some capacity, and we send them an online reference form to fill out. If you have written the GMAT or GRE, we'll get the official document sent directly from GMAC or ETS, respectively. And then there's a video assessment portion of our application. Now, this is an asynchronous interview. It's kind of awkward in that you're given a question, you have 30 seconds to jot down some notes, and you're recorded while you give your response to the question. So a little bit weird to make a video of yourself answering questions, but it's honestly just a chance for us to get to know you better. So I try and tell people not to stress too much over this component of the application process. We'll send you the details for that when you're ready for that step of the application. And then if were required to submit an English language proficiency test, we'd also get that document from you. Once your application is complete, the admissions committee would review and determine if you're eligible or being invited to the interview stage of the application process. The interviews take place with either Geoff, the program director, Gary, or Declan, the assistant director of recruitment and admissions, and they're scheduled to be about an hour in length, very conversational, talking a lot about why an MBA, why Smith is a good fit, your ability to work on a team with other people, all of those kinds of things. And once you have your interview, we can get an admissions and scholarship decision to you within 1 to 2 weeks of that interview. So it can happen fairly quickly once you submit your application items. There's no separate application for scholarships for our entrance awards. Your file would automatically be considered at the time of admission. And as Geoff mentioned, we do still have seats for the January 2026 intake. So if you are interested in that, I'd recommend getting in touch as soon as possible so that we can work with you to build your application in time to be considered.
Thanks so much, Terry Lynn. So final moments here. If you have any questions for those that are listening in on the chat, feel free to drop them in there. Happy to answer them. You've got lots of resources here. Myself, Terry Lynn, and Lauren are happy to answer questions that you might be thinking about that may not have been answered during this session. Next steps, if you would like to be considered for January 2026, submit that resume for consideration through members of our recruitment and admissions team. Unofficial transcripts can be sent while we wait for your official transcripts to be sent directly from the institution. Take a look at our website for any register upcoming events that we might be doing live or virtual. And there's plenty of great opportunities to connect with current student ambassadors. If you go to our website, drop down the student window, you'll have lots of great opportunities to read profiles, click on Ask Me a Question. It goes right to their inbox. You might see some people that have similar professional, academic, or cultural paths that might be able to answer the questions that you might be top of mind right now as we think about January 2026. And again, I apologize that this session was a bit fractured with Zoom dropping there. That was certainly not something that we were planning for, and hopefully to get rectified for the future. If you need any additional support, happy to take a one-on-one virtual conversation with you to answer specific questions that you might have with this important decision ahead. So there's our website, smithqueens.com/MBA. and our social media channels. Lots of great content there for you to consider and follow and get a good sense of life on campus. Hopefully you see yourself in those experiences in 2026 or a future year. And it was a pleasure to work with you. I'm just looking at the chat. Nobody has put questions into the chat, and that's okay too. Hopefully this session was filled with information that answered questions that you might have had coming in, and that's all right as well. So on behalf of Terry Lynn and Lauren and the team here at Smith School of Business, thank you very much for considering us, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Bye for now.